It's nothing serious, just harmless flirting, she said when I confronted her about how she acted around her boss. So I tracked her location, caught her at his house at 10 a.m., and made sure they were both fired that same day. My name is Mark, I am 34, and I work in IT operations for a regional healthcare company. We live in a mid-sized city, 2 cars, predictable routines. Weeknights are usually dinner, gym, then Netflix until we pass out. My wife, Erin, is 32. We have been together 7 years, married for 4, and we share a mortgage and a very boring shared calendar that used to make me feel safe. She works in account management at a logistics firm, the kind of job where she is always on her phone and always annoyed about it. Erin has always had a sharp edge. Not cute sarcasm, more like she talks to people the way you talk to a malfunctioning printer. I got used to it because most of the time the attitude was aimed at the world, not at me. Lately it has been landing on me. This started with her boss, Ryan. I met him once at a company happy hour last summer. He was early 40s, loud, confident, the guy who calls everyone buddy and somehow makes it sound like an evaluation. Erin spent that entire night orbiting him like he was the sun, laughing too hard, touching his arm when she made a point, looking at him instead of me when I spoke. I clocked it, but I did not want to be the jealous husband doing a post-game analysis of body language in a brewery. Then it became a pattern. She would come home and talk about Ryan the way people talk about a TV show they are obsessed with. Ryan said this. Ryan thinks that. Ryan needs me for this client. If I asked a normal question like what time are you home tomorrow, she would sigh like I was interrupting her real life. 2 weeks ago, I picked her up for lunch, something we used to do when we first got married. She walked out of her office building already smiling at her phone. When she got in the car, she did not kiss me hello. She just said drive. I have a call in 10. During lunch, she kept glancing past me at the door like she was expecting someone. I finally asked if something was going on, not accusing, just direct. She rolled her eyes and told me I was being weird. Then she added the line that has been replaying in my head ever since. It is nothing serious, just harmless flirting. She said it like she was granting me a favor by being honest. Like the correct response was gratitude. That night, I lay awake, doing something I hate, building a case in my own mind. I did not want to be right. I just wanted to stop feeling like a stranger in my own house. The next morning, she left in a rush, perfume stronger than usual, and she forgot her laptop bag by the door. I stared at it for a long time before I touched it. I did not open her work laptop. I am not trying to get arrested or fired over this. But the outside of the bag told its own story. A small gift bag tucked in the side pocket, tissue paper sticking out. It had one of those boutique logos that screams expensive, not something you grab on the way to a client site. When Erin got home that night, I asked about the bag like it was casual. She looked at it, then at me, and her face did this flat annoyed thing that has become her default. She said it was for a coworker birthday. No name, no details, just that tone like I was a hall monitor. I said okay, then asked why she forgot her laptop if she had a big day. She snapped that she had not forgotten anything important and that I needed to stop interrogating her. The word interrogating was deliberate. It put me in the role of the unreasonable one. I backed off, but I watched. She went straight to the shower, phone in her hand, and took it into the bathroom. That is new. We are not those people who guard our phones like nuclear codes. At least we were not. Later on the couch, I tried again, calmer. I said I was not accusing her of cheating. I just wanted to understand what she meant by flirting and why it felt like she was choosing him over our marriage. She laughed, not a happy laugh, a dismissive one. She said I was being dramatic and that if I kept acting insecure, she would stop telling me anything at all. I asked one very specific question. Were you flirting with Ryan at work because it helps your career or because you like him? She did not answer. She said I was exhausting and went to bed. That was the moment something in me clicked into a different gear. Not rage. More like the part of my brain that handles outages at 3 a.m. The system is behaving strangely. You stop guessing and you start collecting data. The next day I went about my routine like normal. Work, emails, meetings. But I kept replaying her non-answer. Harmless flirting. Then the bag. Then the phone in the shower. It all lined up too neatly. That evening I checked our shared calendar. Erin had blocked off a chunk of time labeled client follow-up, mid-morning, on a day she usually worked from the office. I texted her a simple question. Are you going in tomorrow or working remote? She replied almost instantly. Office. Then she added a second message. Stop being weird. I stared at that for a long time. The weird part was not my question. The weird part was how fast she shut it down. I did something I never thought I would do. I opened our phone plan account and looked at the options. Family location sharing was already there, turned off, one toggle away. I told myself I was not going to use it. I just wanted to know it existed. Then I turned it on. I did not tell her I turned on location sharing. It was part of our plan already, technically mutual, and I justified it to myself as using a tool that was available. If nothing was wrong, I would turn it off and never mention it. The next morning, she left at her usual time. Hair done. Makeup more deliberate than a random Tuesday. She barely looked at me when she said bye. I waited 10 minutes, then opened the app. At first it showed her heading toward the office, which is downtown, about 20 minutes from our house. I felt stupid for even checking. I closed it and went to my desk. Around 9:40, I checked again. The little dot had stopped moving. Not downtown. Not anywhere near her office. It was in a residential neighborhood on the other side of the city. Suburbs. Single-family homes. I zoomed in and stared at the street name. I did not recognize it, but I recognized the area. I had driven through there once after that company happy hour. Ryan had mentioned he lived nearby when someone joked about his commute. My stomach dropped in a very controlled way. Not explosive, just heavy. I told myself there were explanations. Client meeting, co-worker, some kind of off-site. So I did what any reasonable person would do. I searched Ryan's name in our county property records. It took about 3 minutes. The address on the screen matched the dot on the map. I sat back in my chair and tried to breathe like an adult. It was 9:52 a.m. on a weekday. She was supposedly at the office. I texted her, "How is the office today?" She did not respond. I waited 5 minutes and checked the map again. Still there. I called her. It rang once and went to voicemail. No text back. No nothing. At that point I had a choice. Sit there and spiral, or go see it for myself. I grabbed my keys, told my team I had a family issue, and drove. The whole drive I kept rehearsing what I would do if I was wrong. If it was a work thing, and I was about to embarrass both of us. But another part of me already knew. She would have answered if there was a normal explanation. When I turned onto the street, my hands were steady. That surprised me. I half expected to be shaking. Her car was parked in front of a gray 2-story house with a trimmed hedge and a basketball hoop in the driveway. Normal. Suburban. Quiet. It was 10:07 in the morning. I parked a few houses down and just looked at it. Then I got out. I did not march up to the door like a guy in a movie. I walked up at a normal pace and knocked once, firmly. I could hear movement inside almost immediately. Not scrambling, just footsteps. Ryan opened the door. He was in a t-shirt and jeans. No tie. No laptop in sight. He looked surprised, but not confused. That detail mattered to me. I said good morning and asked if Erin was there. He hesitated for half a second, which is all I needed. Then he stepped back and said she was in a meeting. In his house. At 10 in the morning. I walked past him into the entryway without asking permission. I am not proud of that, but I was not going to stand on the porch and debate definitions of meeting. Erin was in the kitchen. No laptop open. No paperwork. Just her and a coffee mug at his counter. She looked at me like I had interrupted something important. Not guilty. Annoyed. The first thing she said was, "What are you doing here?" I asked her the same question. She rolled her eyes, actually rolled them, and said she told me not to be weird. That this was exactly what she meant. Ryan tried to insert himself and say they were discussing a client strategy in a more relaxed environment. I asked him if his HR department encouraged one-on-one strategy sessions at his house during work hours. He did not answer that. I did not yell. I did not insult either of them. I said very clearly that she told me she was at the office, and instead she was at her boss's house. I asked her one time, directly, "Are you sleeping with him?" She said no, and then added that even if she was, it would be because I had been distant and paranoid. That was the moment I stopped trying to decode anything. I told her we would discuss our marriage later. Then I told Ryan that I would be contacting his company's HR department with screenshots of the location data and a record of the time she was not at the office. Erin called me petty. Ryan called me unstable. I left without another word. In the car I sat for a minute and documented everything. Photos of her car in front of his house. A screenshot of the map with the timestamp. My call log showing I tried to reach her. If they wanted to frame this as harmless flirting, they were going to have to do it in front of their employer. I did not drive home. I drove to a coffee shop with decent Wi-Fi and sat down like I was about to handle a work escalation. Emotionally, I was past the point of arguing about flirting. She had lied about her location during work hours and was at her boss's house. That is a professional issue whether or not it is physical. I drafted one email to HR. I kept it factual. No accusations about an affair. Just timeline. My wife stated she was at the office. At 9:52 a.m. her location showed her at Ryan's residence. I arrived at 10:07 a.m. and confirmed she was inside during work hours. I attached the screenshots and the photo of her car. I asked them to clarify whether off-site meetings at a supervisor's private home were standard practice. Then I found the general counsel contact listed on their website and copied that email as well. Not to be vindictive, but because companies move differently when legal is included. I hit send before I could second-guess it. About 20 minutes later, Erin started calling. Over and over. I let it ring until she sent a text. "What did you do?" I replied with one sentence. I told the truth. She showed up at the coffee shop 30 minutes later. I am not sure how she knew where I was, but she has my location too. She walked in like she owned the place and sat down across from me without asking. She did not apologize. She said I had just ruined her career over nothing, that adults are allowed to have private meetings, that I embarrassed her by storming into his house. I corrected her calmly. I knocked. He opened the door. I asked a direct question. No storming. She leaned forward and said this is why she could not talk to me about anything, that I escalate everything, that harmless flirting is normal, and I turned it into a scandal. I asked her again why she lied about being at the office. She said it was easier than dealing with my reaction. That was the first honest thing she said all day. I told her I am not staying married to someone who lies reflexively and then blames me for responding to the lie. She laughed like I was bluffing. I was not bluffing. Erin left the coffee shop first. She stood up, told me I was self-sabotaging, and said I would regret this when she was unemployed because of my ego. She walked out like she had won something. I stayed seated and finished my coffee. Around 2 p.m., I got a response from HR asking for a phone call. I stepped outside and explained everything again. I emphasized that I was not alleging an affair, only that my wife had misrepresented her location during work hours and was at her direct supervisor's private residence. I made it clear I was concerned about professional boundaries. They asked if I would be willing to provide the original screenshots with metadata. I said yes and forwarded them directly from my phone. By 4:30 p.m., Erin texted me one sentence. "Do not come home tonight." I replied that it is also my house and I would be home at my normal time. No drama, just logistics. When I pulled into the driveway at 6, her car was there. She was inside pacing. The first thing she said was that Ryan had been put on administrative leave pending investigation. The second thing she said was that she had been suspended effective immediately. She looked at me like I had pulled a fire alarm for fun. I asked her if HR had asked why she was at his house. She said yes. I asked what she told them. She said that they were discussing a client strategy and that it was consensual. Consensual is an interesting word to use when no one has accused you of anything. I told her I had already scheduled a consultation with a divorce attorney for the next morning. She called me dramatic again. She said couples work through things. She said I was throwing away 7 years over a misunderstanding. I told her I am not throwing away 7 years. I am responding to a pattern. Lying about where you are at 10 in the morning is not a misunderstanding. It is a choice. She switched tactics. She said fine, maybe it was more than flirting. Maybe she liked the attention. Maybe she liked that someone important valued her. I asked her if she valued our marriage. She did not answer that one either. I did not yell. I did not threaten. I told Erin we needed to talk about logistics. The house is in my name. I bought it 2 years before we got married. When we refinanced last year, we kept it solely under my name because her credit was still recovering from some old student loan issues. She contributes to the mortgage, but legally it is my property. I know that sounds calculated. It was not at the time. It just worked out that way. I told her that given everything that happened today, I was not comfortable living under the same roof while starting divorce proceedings. She laughed at first like I was still posturing. Then I said clearly that she needed to pack a bag and stay somewhere else tonight. She stopped smiling. She said I cannot just kick her out. I said I am not throwing her belongings on the lawn. I am asking her to give us space in a house that I legally own while we sort out the next steps. I told her she could stay with her sister or a friend. If she refused, I would stay with my brother and change the locks once we had a formal separation agreement in place. That last part made her sit down. She tried one more angle. She said if I loved her at all, I would not humiliate her by forcing her out after she had just been suspended. I told her this was not about humiliation. It was about boundaries. You lied about your location, went to your boss's house during work hours, and blamed me for reacting. I am not sharing a bed tonight. She accused me of overreacting again. I did not argue. I repeated the plan. Pack a bag. Take what you need for a week. We will discuss division of property with attorneys. I am not blocking you from your things. I am establishing physical separation. There is a difference. She went upstairs and started packing loudly. Drawers slamming. Closet doors hitting the frame. I stayed in the kitchen and emailed the divorce attorney confirming our morning appointment. When she came back down with a suitcase, she looked less angry and more stunned. She said, "You really are doing this?" I said yes. She stood there for a few seconds like she expected me to fold. I did not. She left at 8:17 p.m. I locked the door behind her, and for the first time all day, the house was quiet. Before I even left the driveway after she drove off, I blocked her number. Not out of spite, out of containment. I knew exactly how the next 24 hours would go if I did not. Long texts, emotional swings, accusations, attempts to reframe what happened. I did not need a live feed of her panic to make a clear decision. So I blocked her on my phone. Then I blocked her on social media. Then I disabled location sharing on my end. Clean lines. When I walked back into the house, it was quiet in a way that felt intentional. I did not pace. I did not pour a drink. I sat at the kitchen table and wrote down the timeline of the day while it was fresh. Times. Screenshots taken. Emails sent. Her exact phrasing when she admitted it might have been more than flirting. If this was going to turn into a legal process, I wanted my memory documented before emotion distorted it. About an hour later, I checked my email. 3 messages from her already. The first was angry. The second defensive. The third softer. She said I was spiraling and that blocking her was childish. She said adults communicate. She said I was proving her point about me being controlling. I did not respond. Blocking her phone meant she had to choose effort to reach me. Email is deliberate. It slows people down. It also creates a record. The next morning I met with the divorce attorney. I brought the documentation and explained that I had asked her to leave and that she left voluntarily. I also explained that I had blocked her to prevent harassment or emotional escalation. He said that was reasonable given the circumstances and advised keeping communication in writing only. When I got back to the house, there was another email from Erin. HR had placed Ryan on administrative leave pending investigation. She said the office was in chaos. She said I had embarrassed her in front of leadership. She said people were asking questions. I noticed something important. Not once did she say she was sorry. I replied with one sentence. Contact me only about logistical matters regarding separation. All other communication should go through counsel. Then I blocked her email too and created a new one strictly for legal correspondence. Silence is not cruelty. Sometimes it is just a boundary. 2 days passed without direct contact. I expected some kind of escalation. Showing up at the house, calling from a different number, getting a friend to reach out. None of that happened. Instead, on the third morning, I received an email from her personal account with a subject line that just said update. Her employment had been terminated. The company concluded that even if there was no confirmed physical relationship, meeting privately at her supervisor's home during work hours constituted a violation of policy and created a liability issue. Ryan was already gone. She was now gone too. The email was long. Not angry this time. Measured. She said she never intended for it to go that far. That she liked the attention. That it made her feel powerful to have her boss invested in her. She admitted that the flirting was not harmless. She admitted she lied because she knew how it looked. She still stopped short of admitting a physical affair. What stood out to me was timing. The admissions only arrived after consequences became real. Not when I confronted her at the house. Not when I asked directly in the kitchen. Only after termination. I forwarded the email to my attorney without commentary. That afternoon, she showed up at the house anyway. I saw her car through the front window before she knocked. I did not open the door immediately. I stepped outside instead and closed it behind me so she could not walk in. She looked different. Less polished. No makeup. No sharp tone. She said she just wanted to talk face to face. That blocking her made everything feel extreme. That we could still fix this. I told her calmly that the only topic I was willing to discuss was the logistics of separating assets and retrieving her belongings with prior notice. Nothing else. She asked if I really believed she would throw away our marriage for attention. I said it does not matter what I believe. What matters is what you chose. She tried to step closer. I stepped back. I told her that from this point forward, communication goes through attorneys. If she needed to schedule a time to collect larger items, she could coordinate formally. She stared at me for a long time, like she was waiting for the old version of me to reappear. He did not. The divorce process moved faster than I expected. The negotiations focused mostly on financial reconciliation. Her attorney initially argued for temporary spousal support given her sudden unemployment. My attorney countered with the documented timeline and the policy violations that led to her termination. In our state, fault does not always change asset division, but it influences leverage. I did not try to punish her financially. I proposed a clean split of joint savings and a reasonable reimbursement for her documented contributions to the mortgage principal during the marriage. No dragging it out. No emotional bargaining. She agreed within a week. The only time she tried to reopen anything was over the narrative. She wanted language in the separation agreement that described the employment termination as mutual restructuring. I declined. Legal documents are not reputation management tools. The day she came to retrieve the rest of her belongings, she brought her sister. I had already boxed everything neatly and staged it in the garage. No confrontation. No small talk. At one point she looked at the house and said she never thought it would end like this. I told her neither did I, but endings usually follow patterns that start small. She asked one last time if there was any version of this where we could try counseling. I answered honestly. Counseling works when both people agree on reality. We never did. She nodded, not angrily this time, just tired. When she drove away with the last of her things, I felt something simple. Not victory, not revenge, just stability. People keep asking if I regret escalating it to her company. I do not see it as escalation. I see it as refusing to participate in a lie. She said it was harmless flirting. It cost 2 careers and a marriage. That is not harmless. What ended us was not one morning at 10 a.m. It was the decision to look me in the eye and call it nothing.